There we go. Now we're like, I'm just here hanging out. We're waiting for some people to pop in. Hopefully somebody does. I'm sorry for the glare of the cameras on this one because this right here is my back porch, which kind of is my, see all the cameras on the shelf there? That's all my YouTube studio stuff. So, is what it is. It's bright. I got four really high bright lights out here running all the time right now. Wait and see if anybody comes in and we'll go from there. When you pop in, introduce yourself, and well, I got to share the link. I'd like to invite anybody that wants to come in and join us tonight. So let me get this one going. All right. Paste. Go. Try that one. There we go. All right, we're good. Well, I'm trying to get these lights away from you, and the more I try to get them away, the more I bring them into the view. And I'm sorry. I mean, I can't eliminate the lights because that just takes away the whole issue here. I'd like to have one in front of me, kind of shining on my face, but I don't. So I got one above me, and I got another one over beside me, and I got that one, and I got that one. So it is what it is. We're just gonna hang out here for a while and see if anybody decides to join us, because right now there's nobody. And to be honest, I know I was just over to Lazy Days Ahead, and they're doing a big giveaway tonight, and I was there. And I don't blame people for wanting to stay there because they do have some pretty cool gifts they're giving away. It's up to them. I can't control the way that the YouTube algorithm works. I'll just hang out here and see what happens. You know, I mean, people want to join. Do they join? Oh, hold on. Bring the camera back. Wow. That camera decided it didn't want to commit suicide. That's not good. That's not good at all. I do have some interesting things I want to talk about, but, you know, I mean, if nobody joins me, then I'm talking to myself. Does anybody go back and watch my lives afterwards to see if I talk to myself a lot? I don't know. But if they do, I can talk to myself for quite a while. I kind of talk to myself when I'm right here on camera, so it doesn't matter to me any. One thing I will say is that last week I introduced the Geekom computer. This thing is super, super fast. It's awesome. This week, what I want to introduce is the computer that I'm on right now. It's made by a company called Just Think. And I'll be honest with you, my last laptop I had running my big laser, we had a major rainstorm where we got water where water don't belong. And it ended up messing up that whole laptop computer. It just flooded it, and it'll never work again. So I reached out to Newegg like I always do, and I said, "Well, give me another computer." And they said, "Well, we got these Just Think ones here. They're like $360. Fine, send me one of those." I think it's a 15-inch monitor. Everything's done off SSD cards, and it's got a lot of RAM. It doesn't have a whole lot of hard drive space, which kind of bothered me, but I do have external hard drives. But they sent me this Just Sync computer, and I'm like, wow, holy crap! I have not had a laptop computer react so quick to me putting information into it and saying, wow, this is good. I'm putting the information in, and it's just coming back and coming back and coming back. It's like, yeah, install this. Okay, great. It's installed. Okay, install this. Okay, great. It's installed. Super fast. Super fast. I don't know who just popped in and popped out, but that's all right. It doesn't matter to me. Anybody can pop in. Anybody can pop out. The only time I'm going to let somebody come in and join with the chat is going to be if I recognize your name from being in the chat or on other channels that I pay a lot of attention to. If I see your name on those channels and you pop in, I will welcome you into mine. If I don't see on those channels and I don't see on mine, you will be banned to the green room. That's just the way it works, you know. I've seen too many bad things where people let people on and they don't know who they are. I started out with just one channel and it turned out to be like 5 channels that I'm friends with, where somebody popped on and the person that popped on wasn't known. But yeah, I mean, you gotta control your own, you know. Mods can't do it. Oh, camera, get back up here. It's not balancing very well on the stand at all. There we go. I hope it stays where it's at now. This is the third time it's fallen down. Hey, Lindy Oki, how we doing, hon? That's the third time the camera's fallen down tonight. It just keeps falling off the stand, and I'm like, well, why are you falling down? And it's like, well, because I can't. But yeah, this is like I don't know. I'm one of those guys where you have to like really pay attention to what's going on around you all the time, and don't never leave a blind eye to what's going on around you. And when I played with the Geekom computer, I was totally impressed with it. Totally impressed. The fact that it could actually take the SIM card and actually right out of the camera, move it into the video editing program I've got was awesome. This Just Think computer that I've got, it does it with the micro SIM cards. It doesn't do it with the big ones. It only does it with the micro. And it's got a micro slot. It's got 2 USB ports. It's got one mini, I'm going to say HD TV port. And then after that, it's poured out. This thing really has no ports. If you want to do it, you got to kind of go out and buy the USB hub to make it work, to be able to do more things. Like if I wanted to put my microphone on this right now, I don't need to. But if I wanted to, I could. I have the microphone input and I have one more USB port. At that point, this computer has no more capacity of plugging anything else in. No more. But for $358, come on, you know. The one that got burnt out, that was almost an $800 computer. And that ran this laser. Let me show you my big laser. It's right here beside me. This is my big laser. This is the OMTech. It's a monster. And then over there in the corner is a commercial refrigeration unit that runs it. So the laser head never gets too hot. That thing is a freaking monster. And it took a lot to get it into the area we got it in. So it was like, wow, what do we do? How do we get it here? Once it's here, what do we do with it? First thing I do with it was go through and verify that all of the lenses and the mirrors were centered. And that was a job. I'll be honest, that was a major job. And thankfully, I have friends that do this stuff all the time, and they were able to give me some pointers on it, and I used their pointers because what OMTech was telling me off their website would have been very, very difficult to do. What my friends told me, super simple. So a lot of oomph to my friends, you know. But this isn't the only laser I own either. I own the Omtech 60-watt CO2 laser, this big one beside me. I also own the X-Tool D1, and I also own the Fox Alien. The X-Tool D1 is a 10-watt. The Fox Alien is a 20-watt. They're both diode lasers. This one's a CO2. There's a big difference between all of them. But I run all these lasers, and the Fox Alien really is like on the back burner right now. I don't really use that much because the X-Tool and this one does everything I want it to do. But I haven't even used X-Tool in a while. Most of everything I do is coming off of the Omtech. And the Omtech laser, I mean, it's a monster. And believe me, if you want to get into playing with lasers, you better have your wallet handy. The commercial refrigeration unit for this one alone was $800. The Omtech 60-watt CO2 laser was, I think, $3,500, somewhere around there. So it was about $4,300 for the pair delivered. And then we had to tear it all apart in order to get it to fit into the room because it doesn't fit through a standard door. Again, I'll show you the laser. This thing does not fit through a standard door. This thing is a monster. That thing is a monster. It's got legs underneath it. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. It's got legs underneath it. We had to totally disassemble this laser in order to even get it into this room. And my thought was I didn't want it in this room. I wanted it somewhere else. And I can't justify tearing it apart and hiring people to get it to the next room that I wanted it in. And then to get it back out, I would have to tear it back down to get it back out again, and I'd have to use like a chainsaw to get it downstairs or whatever. Yeah, that's not going to happen. This is my back patio area. When I first got injured, shattering my heel, this was the room that we created because I had a rule. There's only two places to smoke at my house. You either smoke outside on the porch or you smoke upstairs. I'm a smoker. Well, it got cold outside, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going outside. You know, my foot was in a therapeutic boot. I don't know if you know what they look like, but your toes are out in the open. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going outside, and I couldn't go up and down the stairs. So my employee and I, we came in and we created this whole room right here. And it's a nice room. It's very well insulated. It's very well made. And it was a back deck. And now we're doing the same thing on the one that's just above this one, which is also a back deck. And that one is going to become my new office because I cannot be, I mean, you guys watch my videos. You see the cluster up that I'm in right there with all the tools and all the construction stuff and whatnot going on. So my new office is not going to be in part of that building. It's going to be in a totally separate brand new room. No, Lynn, it's not the room I usually use. And the reason why I chose this room is because, you know, you see up here on this shelf behind me? I can probably bring it around a little bit more. It won't stay. Trying to fall off. So that shelf behind me, those are all cameras. And those are all my YouTube cameras. It goes from a really big Canon camera to a smaller Canon camera to a no-name camera to another Canon camera, and then it works its way down the line to where we're playing with like the what do they call them? What do they call those cameras? I should know the name right off the top of my head. Anyway, it goes to little smaller cameras, and I don't have my drone up there or any of that stuff. I haven't used my drone for any video yet because the one thing about a drone, and people need to understand about drones, is to legally fly a drone, you have to apply for an FAA license. The license is free to get. It's free to get. You buy a drone, you register your drone, you put the new name tag on it that says, okay, this drone has this number on it that says this is Mr. Moffat's drone site. And then if that drone has ever happened into an accident, then that drone can be brought back to you. Well, they aren't going to bring you back your drone, but they'll know who to charge. So if you hit like a power line and it takes out the power somewhere, they're going to charge you for it. If you drop it into the middle of a highway and it causes an accident, they're going to charge you for it. And that's the whole purpose of the FAA license. They need to know who they're going to charge to be able to go back and say, okay, whose drone is this? We need to know. And because of that, they have every ability to do that. But if you don't go get your FAA license and you don't know how to fly a drone and you cause an accident and it doesn't have any markings on it, they have ways of finding out by serial number who bought the drone, who owns the drone, and oh, you're flying it without an FAA license? Okay, great. Now we know who you are, but you don't know who we are. And we'll come back and we'll actually put some financial difficulties on you, because they do. They put major financial difficulties on you. I have my drone registered through the FAA. I got my license, and I just don't fly it. To be honest with you, I think of my new drone is a DX. I think a DX1. I think I've taken that drone up into the air maybe one time here in my yard, and the wind started picking up, and I already lost the drone prior. So I was like, yeah, if the wind picks up, I'm not flying. And I brought it back down and said, no, you're landing right here, right by my feet. I don't want you up into the air. My last drone, and I didn't know you needed an FAA license, or I would have got it prior. That thing went 32 feet up into the air. It had a distance of 35 feet using my phone as a controller. It went 32 feet up into the air. A gust of wind came over the trailer where we were living in, got underneath that drone, threw it up over the barn that was out back and out into a field, never to be found again. Never to be found again. I'm like, well, I got my phone. So if I go out there in the field and I say, start, it'll start. I should be able to hear it. And I got like 7 people walking this field going, okay, listen for the drone, guys. And I hit the start button, and nobody heard nothing. This is all right, shut it down. Walk farther. We walked, I'm going to say probably a 4-acre field. Never found the drone. So when I got the new drone to take its place, I said, well, get a tile and tape it to the drone or glue it to the drone, so the tile will tell you where that drone is located at. You can look it up on your phone. I never flew that drone. That new one, I never flew. I was so afraid that if I flew that drone and I lost it again, I would be having some problems. Lynn, you can say whatever you want, honey. You can say whatever you want, honey. I mean, I really fear for people that think that if you go out and buy a drone, that's buy all end all, because it's not. It's not. If you fly that drone in the air and you don't have a license for that drone, and they can catch up with you. If you cause an accident with that drone, whether it be a power line or a car accident or whatever, they can, if they find the drone, which 9 times out of 10, because it caused an accident, it will be destroyed right there on the crime scene. They can just go back and look at the serial number of that drone and say, well, who bought the drone? And it'll be there. You know, it's like a firearm as far as that's concerned. Who bought this firearm? Well, we know who bought the firearm. Okay, great. Then we're going to charge him with the crime. Was the firearm stolen? Well, I'm pretty sure. I don't know of any time that I've ever heard of somebody's drone being stolen. Ever in my life, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody's drone being stolen to use to commit a crime. You know what I'm saying? That just doesn't happen. But they can go back and they can trace it by serial number like you kind of done. You can't report it stolen because unless you can prove it's stolen, and that's pretty hard to do. Guns are easier than drones are, but you have to be able to prove it was stolen. And if you can't prove it was stolen, well, congratulations. Not only are you guilty of creating an accident with your drone, you're also charged with having an unlicensed drone, which is even worse. You know, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that fly drones and don't care about the FAA license part of it and all that, and don't, they get away with it. But there's certain rules that you have to follow. Well, one of the rules I learned is power lines. When we were at Lake Tenkiller, oh my Lord. Every place that I found a really good place to launch my drone, to be able to get a good shot of Lake Tenkiller and the area where we were doing the meetup, I could not launch my drone. I could not launch it. There was 10, 15 power lines over every area that was beautiful to be able to do it in, and not a single one that wasn't. And I couldn't launch the drone. And also in state parks, you have to really pay attention to state park rules, because if you launch a drone in a state park, some state parks actually have rules that say you are not allowed to launch a drone in our park. You are not allowed to record other people. You are not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. And that happens a lot. Hey, I'm glad to see we got some people coming in. How about everybody say hi? Hey, Belle, how are we doing? Yeah, people don't understand the rules of drones. I mean, there's a rule in Arkansas, actually, in Oklahoma. You are allowed to fly a drone 10 feet high off the ground and only pointing in the direction where you are at. Anything higher or anything pointed at anybody else in that park is illegal. I didn't know it until I looked it up. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? This is like a really stupid drone rule. 10 feet off the ground? Heck, I'm 5'5". Mike, or Gary rather, from Simple Life Reclaimed is 6'5". 10 feet off the ground ain't much. If I was on his shoulders, I wouldn't be able to record it. You know what I'm saying? It would be just that. It would be asinine. But that's the way they work it. Hi, TNT Adventures. How we doing? But that's the way they work it. You're only allowed to have a drone fly so high and only record such people, and that's a drone rule. And it's not the FAA, it's the actual state parks that create these rules. The FAA has its own little situation going on, which I understand and I do appreciate. You know, last thing I want to do is be driving down the highway at 65 miles an hour and have somebody's drone come crashing through my windshield. Make them accountable for it. So I agree with it. But in the same respect, I have to sit back and say, is that every drone driver that's going to be out there? You know, it's like, is that every gun owner? The guns are registered, but is every gun owner going to have a mental issue where they think they have to drive it through a windshield or shoot somebody else driving? I don't think so, but it happens. Well, TNT, I'm glad you were able to come join us. And my Alaska, I'm glad you're able to come join us as well. We got up to about 5 people there, and now we're back down to 3, but that's all right. I don't care. My lives are not about trying to drive everybody in to visit with me and talk about the crazy things I want to talk about. It's about just getting everybody together and hanging out and, you know, having a good time, I guess. Yeah, TNT, those are very crazy rules, but they're there. You know, power lines. You can't launch underneath them. You can't fly around them. That's, again, when I was in Oklahoma, where I could have I found awesome, like, takeoff spots to get all of the lake in Oklahoma, Lake Tenkiller, and be able to fly down into where we were going to be for doing the meetup. It would have been a beautiful freaking shot, but I couldn't get off because I had power lines over my head. That was number one. Ain't going to happen. And if you hit a power line, Oh, you got some fines coming at you, big time. Even if it doesn't take the power line out, you got fines coming at you because FAA says, yeah, you weren't allowed to take off from there, so you did. Now we're going to hit you with some fines. But yeah, there are crazy rules about what you can do and what you can't do with drones. And I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I'm going to say, no, I kind of respect them. It's kind of like our gun laws to some respect. I have to have some respect. I don't have to always agree, but I have to have some respect. Yeah, TNT, man, I'll tell you, that was a beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah, well, my Alaska, I'll be honest with you, only if they cut you. If you have a drone in the air and you're flying it around and you create what they call an accident, which could be hitting a power line, hitting a car, which causes a major accident, whatever, every drone has a serial number embedded into it. And when you get an FAA license, they tell you what number you need to put on the outside of it that matches your license. Granted, they can get the serial number and not get your license and say, yeah, well, you're all fine and dandy because you didn't have the FAA license. They aren't going to find you. But you know what happens? They go back to the seller of the drone, they run that serial number, and now they know who you are. And unlike a gun, you can't say, yeah, but it was stolen or I lost it in a boating accident. That's my excuse for my guns. Well, I lost them in a boating accident. But you can't do that with a drone. Who steals drones? Everybody wants to steal a firearm, but nobody wants to steal a drone, probably because they don't know how to fly it. So yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue, and they have a really good way of tracking these things, and I'm amazed. But yeah, they can actually track you down. They can actually track you down, and they can bring it right to your house because oh, my drone was stolen, or I lost my drone in a boating accident. Yeah, those aren't going to fly. Unfortunately. I would actually like to be able to use that for an excuse. Yeah, I lost my drone in a boating accident. Well, I already used it for all my guns. Why can't I use it for my drone? Yeah, because you can fly a drone out of water as long as it's not in there too long. I guess I don't know. So, anyways, I was showing you guys earlier, and we got new people in here that haven't seen it. This is my big laser. That is the OhmTech 60-watt CO2 laser with a commercial refrigeration unit on the side of it. And I had a computer set up on the shelf over there beside it that I was running it from. We had got such a large driving rain here 2 weeks ago that the rain actually went between the wood and made it onto the computer. I mean, I picked that computer up. I could have poured a cup of water out of it. It totally fried the computer. So my new one, hi Charlene. My new one is I went out and I bought this new laptop computer. It's called Just Think. It's a 15.6 SSD hard drive, really super, super fast. Like I was saying earlier, and you guys weren't here for that, I had it set up where my Geekom computer was on the back of a TV, and that was the fastest computer I ever owned until I got this one. $360. It comes with a micro SD card reader. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the big one, but it's got the micro SD card reader, 2 USB ports, a power port, and a mini HDMI port. It's not a big computer. It's not much of anything, actually, but it's super fast and it's really good at graphics. I mean, really good. If you can, you can't really see behind me here. I'll move a little bit. I've got another laptop sitting right here. That's hooked up to my laser. That computer does not like talking to my laser, or my laser does not like that computer talking to it. I don't know which way that goes. It could be they just both hate each other and they don't want nothing to do with each other. And I'm not going to be the referee in the middle and try to straighten out the boxing match. I'm just going to sit back here and say, okay, great, find another one. Lynn Yoki, the regulations of what area are we talking? Yeah, TNT, it's very frustrating. It's like, I'm a computer guy. I owned a computer store for like 10 years. I don't know if it's that this big laser over here doesn't want to talk to that computer, or that computer doesn't want to talk to the laser. And I'm not going to be the guy standing in the middle trying to figure it out. I'll just go buy another computer and say, okay, can you talk to the laser? I have not hooked this one up to it yet. I'll be very honest with it. I have not hooked this one up to it yet. But I can almost guarantee that when I do, they will talk in perfect harmony. Because this computer has a lot of RAM. I think it's like 32 gigabyte of RAM. And it's like a 568 gigabyte SSD drive that fires it up. And then I've got an external hard drive that's I think 3 terabyte drive to store my files on, so it never has to take up all the memory or whatever of this computer to make it work. I'm pretty sure these two will talk together real nice and life goes on. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, the thing about regulations is, as far as I know, with the FAA, that's statewide. I mean, every state in the United States has to have a drone license requirement. I believe that to be true. It may not be. I believe that to be true. It could be some states just say, hey, if you got one, you want to fly it, just take it out and fly it. We don't care. Kind of like the concealed carry permit states. If we're a constitutional state, you can go out and you can carry constitutional. We don't care. But I'm pretty sure that the FAA does not open the borders that way like the gun rights people have. Yeah, TNT, I like that. If it don't work, kick it. I heard that works sometimes. We used to fix our TVs that way, although we didn't kick them, we just slapped them. Get on the channel, you fool. Because if it didn't work when you slapped it, you had to be the guy climbing up the ladder up on the roof at probably 10 years old to change the direction of the antenna. I've never done that. Don't want to do it again. So basically, I'm still looking for land in Arkansas. I have come down to a set plan of what I want. I started out with a 24 by 60. And the more I looked at that plan, the more I was like, why do I need a 20-foot living room? That's fascinating. I don't need a 20-foot living room. So I brought it down to a 24 by 48. It seems to work really well. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a big walk-in closet, a laundry area, a set of stairs to go down because I do want to have a basement. It's Arkansas. Yeah, you got to have a basement. You want to get out of them tornado zones, you got to get down in the basement. So it's 24 by 48. You go downstairs to get into the basement. And then down in the basement will be, I was going to make it a utility room, but in Arkansas, you really don't need a utility room. You need hot water. Yeah, great. Okay. Do like Tim did over there at Ridgelight, on-demand hot water heater. Well, we got 2 people. We don't need to have a 40-gallon hot water tank for 2 people. That's idiot. So on-demand hot water heater. And then do like Simple Life Reclaim did, where you go in and you put a heat pump in. So you got your heating and your cooling and stuff, and that's all you need. That's all your utilities right there between those two. and your electricity, of course, to run them, and propane, but you're out. You don't need a basement to put your utilities in. You don't need a utility room or whatever, you know. Laundry's already on the first floor on the back side of the stairs going down, so you got room for that. So my thinking is the downstairs would be like areas for maybe the print shop area stuff that I need to keep with me. And if that becomes the case, I think I probably want it to be a walkout basement so that I don't have to take stuff up and downstairs. I can just take it out the front or back. And then from there, it's like my music room. You know, I'm not gonna stop playing music. A lot of people are like, well, how often do you play your music? Well, you know, I've been hurt for over 2 years, and anybody in their normal mind would think, well, geez, you've been out of it for 2 years. You're not going to work anymore. You should be playing your guitar every day. I don't. I really don't. I think I played my guitar, not counting the time that we were in Arkansas or Oklahoma with Mike and Sid from Free Mississippi. I think up to that point, I probably played my guitar 15 times because I needed to get back into some practice. But after that, I think I played it twice, maybe. And that was just because some friends were over and they wanted to hear me. But I'm like, yeah, I don't really pick the guitar up a whole lot more, but I will not quit. You know what I'm saying? I need to have that ability. That is, if my music is my escape. It's my launch pad to say, hey, I'm over here. I can be in my own zone. You can be over there doing whatever you're doing, but I'm going to be over here in my own zone, and life goes on. Of course, I use a couple of different things to get me into that zone, but we won't talk about that here. Yeah, in Arkansas, a house with a basement isn't so rare. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Bill. In Arkansas, it's really not so rare to have a house with a basement. I mean, there are a lot of them going up that don't have basements. Like, you know, you got Mama V, you got Come On Homestead, you know, you got Rox and Ant over the Simple Life or Country Road Cure. You know, Mike and Lissa, Just Dreamers 5. There's a lot of places that aren't putting in basements, but for me, I want that basement. If I'm in an area where I'm not going to say I don't know my neighbors, but I don't know them well enough to where I want to have to go hang out with them. What does your hat say? Lindy Oki, it says Trump 2024, signed by Donald J. Trump himself. It's signed over here. Oh, no, signed over here on this side. Although it was signed with an embroidery machine. So he didn't really sign it. He just signed his signature and then he had it digitized and put onto the hat. But yeah, I mean, if you move into an area and you don't really know your neighbors that well, whether they have a basement or not, I think you should all consider like a safe shelter or what they would call a bomb shelter, I guess, or a storm shelter, where you at least have to have some section of basement available where you can escape your house and go down in, you know, if the house is built properly. And this is the funny one. If it's built properly by code. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Most of Arkansas does not have a building code, but the United States does. And if you use the United States building code and you build your basement and your house according to the United States building code, you now have a safe room in your basement where even if the roof and the top of the floors of the house go flying away, you're down there and you don't care. And you got food, you got shelter, preferably like a Blue Yeti or something down there to be able to give you a power bank to be able to cook if you need to or whatever. Run lights because, you know, you're down in the basement. You need to be able to see in the dark and whatnot. And you can put down like a compost toilet or something like that down there too. To me, that would be the number one thing that I would want to have. I can't picture going in, even though it's a 24 by 48 house, it's not huge. I can't picture going in and building that house without putting a safe room under that house. Even if that safe room becomes my music room or part of my print shop, because I don't plan on leaving the print shop behind. That's going with me when I go to Arkansas. But that's all going to remain with me, because I don't see any reason why financially it would not make sense to have that. Yeah, well, Bill, I agree. And you got earthquakes, and people don't do basements in an earthquake area, because what happens when you do a basement in an earthquake area? They collapse. And then your house comes tumbling down inside of the basement. So, yeah, well, cellars and basements, Lynn, we call them all about the same. I watched Gary and Melanie build their whole basement from Simple Life Reclaimed. And then I watched Marcel and Denise do it over there at It's All Grady, doing all their block land. And you know what I said about that? I'm 59 years old. I am not going to be climbing up and down scaffolding, up and down ladders to do no block work. I don't care. My whole thing is I'm going to hire somebody to come in, dig out all the footers, pour all the footers, pour a base foundation into the basement, so you got a nice, pretty much level floor with possibly a drain in it, so if it does get water, it drains out. And then come in with forms and do a solid wall. I actually looked into what they call insulated concrete foundations, ICF block. And I really like ICF block, to be honest with you, because you got an insulated core of concrete in the middle, you got styrofoam on this side and styrofoam on this side. But what I don't like is I was told by a lot of people that the plastic brackets that hold that ICF together are break points for where that wall comes together. And because of that, I don't want to play that game. I'm thinking, well, just come in with solid forms and do the wall, and then I can go around the outside of it, and I can add like a 2-inch pink board insulation that's tongue and groove or whatever, and glue it to the foundation or tarp the foundation and go all the way around the foundation. That keeps the foundation dry. It keeps it insulated to an extent, and that's all I really need. I don't want my basement to be like the temperature of the upstairs of the house, to be honest with you. You're talking in Arkansas, you're talking 110 degrees with probably 80% relative humidity every day. And I'm looking at it as being, well, the basement would be the respite, because then you get down into the ground area, and then you're probably down to about 65 to 75 degrees. It may not be dry, but you can run a dehumidifier and keep it dry. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. If it's too hot upstairs, I can go down the basement. I can put a bed down there. I can sleep down there. I can do whatever I want. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Yeah, well, the ICF forms, the problem that I found with that, Bill, is that every one of them plastic braces that holds the rebar up inside of it, every one of those becomes a breaking point for the wall, because the cement, as it's going through those there, it's leaving an air pocket, and then they go to the outside of the styrofoam, and that leaves another air pocket. Now you've only got styrofoam in that area to keep it from going like this. It's a shear strength thing. And I heard that was like a really, really bad thing to have to deal with, was the ICF block shear. And I don't want to deal with that. I really don't want to deal with that. So I'm thinking, just go down there, get the foundation done, like I said, get the basement floor put in, possibly with a drain, maybe with 2 drains, because I think I would like to have a bathroom in the basement just in case, if SHTF comes about, and anybody that knows me knows what SHTF stands for, then at least I've got a bathroom, possibly a sink down there that I can use. So if I do crap on my hands because I can't see what I'm doing, I can at least wash them off afterwards. You know what I'm saying? And then solid form walls all the way around with the rebar. I can insulate them afterwards. It's not an issue. I can insulate outside. I can insulate inside. It's not an issue. But ICF, I can't see that being the right answer. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos on it, And that was the number one talking point was you lost your shear strength when they ran them plastic banding pieces, the crosses. You run the plastic cross between those two inside and outside of that block, and there's like 3 of them per block or whatever. The shear strength is lost at that because now you got styrofoam and nothing between but air, and they shear. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want a basement that can shear. I don't, you know. In Arkansas, I think that would be terrible. In your area, Bill, in Alaska, where you guys are dealing with like hurricanes and stuff like that, oh my God, that would be astronomically bad, you know. And yeah, you have to vibrate the concrete, Bill, absolutely, and it has to be done properly. You know, I've watched a lot of this stuff happening. I'm really up on almost all of the YouTube channels that are building houses and stuff now, including Texas Roots. By the way, if anybody hasn't watched South Texas Roots, I highly recommend Jared over there. He's part of a family that I don't recommend, but I like Jared. So is what it is. But yeah, South Texas Roots. I'll be honest with you. Jared's doing a build now. I think this is the second time around on his own property where he brought in a shed, and then he was going to build it into a house, and it turned out to be that shed was just a terrible, terrible build, and they had to come and take it back. And then he came back in with another video saying, well, geez, you know, we sent the shed back because it had all these problems, and then some other ladies got it over on her lot for sale, same exact shed, same company, same everything, Dirksen. And it's like, wait a minute. He paid over $32,000 for that shed. She's got it for sale for $31,000 with walls and electric. You know, it's not all hooked up, but even still, you know, it's all there. And they're claiming, well, we built the walls. We can't guarantee the electric, but we can warranty the walls. And they're like, you can't warranty your own freaking house, dude. How can you warranty work somebody else did? And I like Jared. You know, it's part of the Crocker family. And I don't know if you guys know the Crockers. They are his brother, which actually stood up for him on this shed deal. His brother puts out videos, and I've watched a few of them. I don't watch very many of them because a lot of them are what I classify as clickbait. A lot of Jared's brother's videos are clickbait. They put out something for a title and like a what do they call that, thumbnail for a video, and it has nothing to do with what the video was about. And because of that, I don't really watch his brother much. But Jared, I've watched every one, and I'm kind of riding with him on this one. But in the same respect, yeah, I'm not a Jason fan. I just sit back and I'm like, okay, well, now he went from being a tiny home. I don't even know if it was really on piers. I think it was just on blocks with tie downs. And when he told them to come back and get the tie downs, I was like, Jared, wait, why did you get rid of the tie downs? You're getting ready to build something else on this thing before or after you get done taking this one out. And I'm thinking that maybe it's a really good idea to leave those tie downs there because, you know, you're getting ready to build something else there. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not building it the same size. Okay, you may not be building the same size, but can't you use those same tie downs to, like, if you're going 16 feet wider one direction or the other, can't you still use those same tie downs? And he says, no, we're not going to be doing anything like that. We're going to be doing just a foundation. And I was like, all right, well, I guess you don't need tie downs now. I accept that. But it's one of them deals where I'm also sitting back and like, I know in Texas why you don't do a basement. I fully understand that. You only can go down 6 feet before you hit water. And actually, when he was putting his water line or electric line in here last week, he didn't even go down that far and he hit it. So, you know, I can understand why in Texas they don't put basements under houses. You're too close to the ocean water level. But in Arkansas, you're in mountain territory, people. Come on. Put a basement under that bad boy. David's tiny home, could you imagine how much space he would have if he were able to put a basement underneath where he built the tiny home and move his laundry and his wall and put probably a real furnace down in there and stuff underneath that basement? He'd have that whole section of that tiny house upstairs for himself. Well, that well house wouldn't have to be part of the tiny kitchen. It'd be the kitchen, you know? So I look at that kind of stuff too. And it's like, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I don't want utilities in my living area, although I did create mine 24 by 48 with laundry. And I got thinking, you know, it's only two people. We only need to have like a heat pump to be a heat and cool place, and you know, an on-demand hot water heater from propane to be able to heat and cool the water or heat the water. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to have a whole basement for that. But I'm also sitting back going, yeah, but I still want the basement. I still want the basement. Yeah, well, TNT, that's the worst part. Arkansas is very rocky. It is good for basements, but it's very rocky. And the problem with that is now when you get in there and you start thinking about, okay, I want to dig out a basement. I've already been talking to Drew about this one. You want to dig out a basement, you want your basement to be X size or whatever. First of all, you got to dig out, I think it's 5 feet further than the sides of your basement in order to leave room for the guys that are going to come in and do the foundation and the forms to be able to do your pour walls. You got to leave them, I think it's 5 feet bigger than each side of the foundation is supposed to be normally. And then it all has to be backfilled. But what happens is when you get into digging rock, you know, you're putting a lot of extra wear and tear on the equipment. You're putting a lot of extra time in on the operator because one rock could be one load, you know. I mean, it depends on where you're, what section you're at and the size of the rocks that are in the area. It's not like you're digging up an old stone wall, you know. That Bobblehead's place, Drew had it very lucky. He had very few rocks. Very few rocks. I was actually totally blown away by how few rocks that Drew hit when he was digging out 2 bobbleheads. I think it was like probably 65 rocks that were of decent size throughout the whole dig of doing the power lines, doing the water lines, getting everything set up the way he's got it so far. Now, he hasn't done sewer, and he hasn't closed anything back up yet or whatever, but so far, I think it was like 65 rocks Drew said he hit going in and doing that. But that's wear and tear on the equipment. It's you know, each stone you hit with like a excavator or a backhoe like he has or whatever, that jars that piece of equipment. And every time you jar that piece of equipment, you're putting a lot of tension on the hydraulic lines and a lot of tension on the driver. You know, if that rock is really super embedded, and they have to go in and they really have to beat on it to try to get it out, man, I'll tell you, you're going to pay extra money for that because the wear and tear on the equipment is terrible as it is. And then you got the wear and tear on the driver trying to make it happen, or the operator, I guess you could call him. I don't classify Drew as an operator. He's the driver. Unless Lindsay's on it. Unless Lindsay's on it. But Lindsay doesn't dig in rock. She already said, I refuse. If I hit a rock, I am out of the cab and Drew is back in because I am not tipping this over. That's a lot of money to have to worry about ruining, you know. And I understand that too. I understand that too. Actually, TNT, where Bobblehead Homestead is at, that is not really shell or hard rock. It's kind of an in-between. It's kind of almost like a cobblestone rock. You know, they're a little bit bigger than what, you know, shell shears and hard rock doesn't. They're kind of like a cobblestone where maybe some of the rocks are 6 or 8 inches in diameter or whatever, but they're not really into that area. And yeah, there are some areas that are sandstone, and sandstone like where I'm at right now, we have limestone. Limestone has a tendency to shear if it's hit with any kind of force. So if you hit it with a backhoe, trying to dig like a hole or something like that, it'll shear the limestone. The problem is it drops that lime dust back into the soil, and then you end up with really hard water if it's anywhere near your well. So I deal with that all the time. Yeah, that's Bill. That's exactly what they've been doing with Jeffs. I think Drew said the biggest ones they got. I think it was like 40 of them, maybe or more, were maybe 10 inches in diameter or bigger. Most of them were smaller, and he said that was the advantage of Jeffs. Other than having to go in and tear out the roots. The roots. Oh my God, that one root or on that one tree, that rock was 3 foot in diameter. He's like, I don't know if I can get this tree out of this root. And I was like, yeah, you can. Go down in there with your chainsaw, cut the root around the rock. I don't know if you can get the rock out of the hole, but I know you can get the root out of the hole. And he ended up just digging a hole next to it and sliding that rock over it and dropping it down and covering it back up to get it out of the way, because that was the biggest rock on old Jeff's property. That was the biggest rock, and it was huge. I mean, we're talking 3 feet in diameter, as much as Drew's backhoe weighs, and that's a big John Deere. As much as that weighs, he could not pick that rock up. They had it wrapped in chain. They did everything they could to try to pick that rock up. They could not pick it up. But he was able to slide it in the hole sideways. And he says, all right, cool. If that's the case, I'll just dig a bigger hole over here, and I'll slide it into that one, and then we'll cover it back up, because now it's out of the way. We don't never have to worry about it again. That was the biggest one I think he had to run into over there. That was a big rock. And I'm thinking that was probably like a 2-ton rock. It was a big one. But, again, I started out with a 24 by 60 plan, and I've knocked it down 24 by 48. Could I stay with a 24 by 60 and add another bedroom? Yes, I could. Let me ask you this. It's me and one other person. Why? Would my brother come visit me? Yes, he probably would. Does he need to stay in my house when he comes to visit me? I can put him in the basement. If he wants to, he can camp out in the yard. I think, knowing my brother as good as I do, he'd be camping out in the yard. Straight out. I mean, there's going to be a camper out there regardless, because when I buy the land, there will be a camper there for me to live in until we get it going. All right, Bill, we'll catch you later next time. And yeah, Slim, thank you. So there'll always be a camper on the property. Will it be as nice when I move into the house as it was when I moved into the camper? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be, because I take pretty good care of my property. But I look at it as being, if my brother came, he'd stay in the basement. He'd probably pitch a tent in the yard. He's just that kind of a guy. We used to camp in the wintertime all together. And it was just one of them things that we always did. We always picked the outside places to go, and we stayed there. And I think my brother today would still be that same mindset, where he'd be saying, yeah, okay, well, you can stay in the house, but I'm going to pitch a tent out here in the backyard. Can I get power for a light or whatever? Yeah, I'll leave the door open so you can come in and use the bathroom. That would be the way it would work. In fact, I'd probably let him set up on the back deck and just staple the tent down to the corners on the back deck and say, okay, well, bro, I don't think your tent's going to blow away, but if it starts to, we got a basement. And he'd be like, yeah, okay, great, I'm good. All right, guys, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, I'm sorry. According to Lynn, it is now 8 p, because that's Central Time. In my time, it's 9 o'clock. ET. So I'm going to step out of here. I don't know who's going on next, but right now, I'll be honest with you, Saturdays are pretty open, and Sundays are very open if somebody wants to start doing lives. According to my chart of the master list of lives, there are a lot of places available where you can squeeze in some time zone if you want to use it. I'm out of here. You guys all have a good weekend, the rest of your week, and we'll see you next Saturday. TNT, that's awesome. All right, catch you guys later.